Fauxboy here, your favorite fake movie recapper for movies that have never been made and probably never will be. Today's movie is called The Boy in the Woods. Spoilers ahead, so beware, sit back and take care. Our movie starts in the White Mountains of Felton, New Hampshire. We first meet a tired ER nurse, Claire Mitchell, on her first day off in over a week. She lives in a rustic cabin at the end of a long and windy dead-end road. Claire lives alone and prefers it that way. It is nighttime and another winter storm is ripping through the town of Felton. That's not the only thing that's ripping. Ripping ass, that is. Claire and gas go together like buffalo wings and blue cheese dipping sauce. She was busy preparing her favorite dish, 5-bean vegan chili. With each gust of wind that slammed against the cabin, Claire snuck another hot bean bake-out. Her only other roommate, her cat Sprinkles, ran for cover under the bed as he could not stand the smell of her rotten cabbage behind. Claire was just about finished cooking her famous chili when she noticed something strange out of the window. She thought she was imagining it, but she could have sworn and she saw a pair of glowing red eyes in the woods looking back at her from the window of her kitchen. She blinked a few times and looked back outside. They were gone. She decided to put on some music to calm her nerves. Her favorite love song, Amish Paradise, was playing softly. There was something so incredibly sad about Weird Al singing about Amish gangsters. As tears filled her eyes, her cat Sprinkles came out from underneath the bed. He smelled those sweet, tangy beans and wanted a taste. He hopped up on the counter to dip his paw in, but he was met with Claire's hand swatting him off the counter. She saw the glowing red eyes again, and this time, she went outside to investigate. With a dull kitchen knife clutched in her hand, she slowly opened the door and walked out onto her front porch. She clutched the knife tighter than Tiger Woods clutches his own golf balls. She called out into the night, "Listen here, whatever you are. I'm gonna give you to the count of 3 to get your low life, rotten behind off my property." The eyes continued glowing but appeared to be getting larger and closer. Finally, out of an oddly shaped raspberry bush, a little boy emerged, his face smeared with berries. He was clutching a wooden case of sorts, and he was wearing a Better Call Saul t-shirt with Jonas Brothers era skinny jeans. A soft voice came out from the boy's mouth. "Excuse me, ma'am. Would you like to buy a Cutco knife?" Claire recoiled at the thought of being called ma'am, until she realized that the boy was trying to sell cutlery in the middle of a storm. The boy proceeded to explain that both his mom and dad were sick and he needed to provide. Also, his dog and his grandma and pet turtle Donatello were also sick. Claire thought, Jesus, that seems like a really odd coincidence that there are so many sick people in one family. Although filled with guilt, she politely declined when he insisted on at least letting him go through his brief 90-minute presentation. She wouldn't have to commit to buying anything. She let out an annoyingly loud sigh, which Sprinkles welcomed because at least this hot air came out of her mouth this time. Claire asked the boy his name. The little boy stared up at her with piercing blue eyes that seemed to never blink and said, "Morgan." "What, like Morgan Freeman?" Claire said suspiciously. "No," the little boy said, "like Morgan and Morgan and Morgan and Morgan and Morgan." Claire cut him off. Never mind, the little boy was freezing, so Claire let him warm up by her electric towel rack. Anyone who ever visited Claire was always amazed at the amount of heat that came off that thing. Morgan began laying out his knives methodically on Claire's dining room table, not before stomping each of his muddy boots into her brand new shag area rug. Each knife was pointing in a different direction in a radial pattern. They were arranged by size and function, and Claire was not impressed. The boy asked if Claire had any white glue, glitter, and contact solution. Claire was confused, but complied. Morgan began furiously mixing the ingredients together, with Claire not having a clue as to what he was doing. She found out the hard way as he was making a batch of glitter slime. Morgan took it out of the bowl to play with it while his presentation was going on. Claire didn't hear a single word about knives. She was fixated on Morgan dropping little bits of slime all over her dining room carpet and stomping it into the same muddy spots he had created earlier. Claire hated slime, and now she hated Morgan. Morgan had to go, like now, before you know, like Morgan died. Morgan asked to use her bathroom before he left. He lit it up and used way too much toilet paper and clogged the toilet. Claire began to boil over with rage. He apparently wasn't too good at wiping either. As he walked past her, she caught a whiff of her swamp butt. Seriously, what has Claire done to deserve this? Morgan was hungry. He asked if she had anything to eat before finishing his presentation. She said she had some chili on the stove, but she didn't make that much of it. She was willing to part with some of it if he was willing to cut the presentation short and leave. Morgan agreed and said he loved chili. She spooned him out a bowl, but made sure to load in some pepper X extract into his bowl to give him a real treat. She placed the bowl in front of him with a wide Grinch-like grin on her face. He took a bite, looked up at her. "Wow, this tastes like crap. I hope you're a better nurse than you are a cook." He got up from the table and proceeded to raid her fridge. He took out ice cream, pickles, cheese sticks, pasta salad, and about 50 other items. Instead of eating them at the table like a normal person, he plopped down onto the couch and began spilling food and drink all over the upholstery. Claire's blood was boiling. Her quiet night seemed like it would never happen. She demanded he clean up his mess, but he ignored her and turned on her TV. Oh good, his favorite show was on, Dinosaur Train. He turned the volume up to 65 and the whole house shook. Sprinkles ran around and around in circles, ears pinned back and hissing like a steam engine. Claire's head started throbbing. What even was a dinosaur train? And why was there a velociraptor dressed as a bellhop? Claire's rage became even ragier. Her eyes darted to the table where the Cutco knives were so elegantly splayed out. Which one should I stab Morgan with? Thought Claire. Claire recoiled from her nasty thought. She was a good Christian woman. Surely she could not murder a child. Morgan turned the TV up louder, spilled some Capri Sun on the cushion, belched, and then complained about the couch being too uncomfortable. Claire didn't hesitate. Morgan must leave immediately or he will have to die. She packed up his knives, keeping one for herself. She earned it, she thought, and also maybe to cut Morgan just a little bit. JK, JK. Claire grabbed Morgan by the arm and yanked him off of the couch. He was confused and exclaimed he hadn't finished his presentation yet. Claire said too bad and threw his jacket over his shoulders, shoved his knife box under his arm and shoved him out into the night. Claire slammed the door and Morgan just stood there whimpering in the moonlight. Claire ignored him. Morgan pushed his face up against the glass and smeared his greasy hands all over the window pane. Claire had literally just washed those windows last week. She began twitching from rage. She threw open the window and screamed at the top of her lungs for Morgan to go home. Her scream caused an avalanche of snow that came straight for her cabin. She was now buried alive in her cabin, but at least she finally had peace and quiet. Morgan was gone, swept away, and Claire was happy. Her power was knocked out, but she didn't care. She was still happy. Her chimney was just tall enough to poke above the snow. She lit a roaring fire and curled up on the only non-stained crumb-free portion of her couch and opened a bottle of wine. She let out another big sigh. And sank into her couch, and Sprinkle curled up at her feet when she saw a pair of glowing red eyes coming from her dark hallway. She grabbed a lantern and shined it into the hallway. What she saw was the most frightening thing of all. It was 5 pairs of glowing eyes. It was Morgan, and his brother Morgan, and his brother Morgan, and Morgan. And they were all selling knives, and they all broke into their presentations. Claire screamed, "No!" She woke up. She was not in her cabin, but was rather on the couch in one of the break rooms by the nurse's station. Her friend Gabby helped her up off the couch. She said it sounded like she was having one heck of a nightmare. Claire said that she didn't know the half of it. Gabby guided Claire out of the break room and into patient room 12. Claire pulled back the curtain, and it was Morgan and Morgan and Morgan and Morgan and Morgan, all glowing red eyes. Only they weren't selling knives. They were selling timeshare. Claire collapses on the floor, only to be woken up by even more Morgans. Her life has become never-ending Morgan's until she finally succumbs and becomes a Morgan too. The movie ends with her eyes glowing red and Claire selling Cutco knives to her cat Sprinkles. After the credits, there is bonus footage of Sprinkles' eyes glowing red and his paw clutching a knife. If you like this story and video, don't forget to like and subscribe. Thanks for watching and see you at the next one. Fauxboy out.